Hi everyone, welcome back to Cowboy Survival. I'm Richard, and tonight what we're going to do is talk about what I think are the 5 most likely catastrophes that we might each face. It's important for us to think about those and think about how we might respond, both for the safety of our family and of ourselves. So, let's get into it. Boy, there sure are a lot of videos out there that'll scare you, think the world's coming to an end. What I want to do is take a few minutes to talk about the emergencies and catastrophes that might actually happen. Those events that can change our lives permanently. Now, many of the survival videos on the internet focus on the worst case scenario. It's often abbreviated as SHTF. We seem to be focused on preparing for the end of the world, when it feels like a devastating interruption to our normal life is just around the corner. Maybe that is what we really need to focus on. So let's be real for a minute. It's highly unlikely that, one, we are going to ever actually experience nuclear holocaust, the zombie apocalypse, or a military coup of our national government. And even if that did happen, two, it's very unlikely that most of us would even survive the initial event. It is more likely that we might experience a catastrophic event that is more or less both local in nature and temporary in duration. The immediate experience might not be different from a catastrophic collapse of the economy or the government. It might even be worse, actually. Now, in the event of an economic collapse or government collapse, the impact may actually take several days for most of us to feel the effect of it. But a local catastrophe can change conditions in an instant. Are you ready to respond in a sudden impact situation? Do you know what you would do? How about your family? Do you have a plan? Well, I've identified 5 circumstances that would require that we respond immediately. We need to be prepared for those events. Now, some of those events will require what resembles a temporary bug out. Some will actually require that we seek immediate safety by staying right where we are. Each is going to require a different response and a different level of preparedness. So the 5 emergencies I've identified are catastrophic natural disasters, a lockdown situation by local, state, or national governments, similar to what we saw with COVID. This can be long-term or short-term. We could have local or widespread rioting, criminal activity at a public event, and a terrorist attack, or maybe any combination of those. So in the next several videos, we're going to look at each one of these scenarios and talk about ways to plan for them. Keep in mind that we want to plan in such a way that our solutions overlap. This will help create efficiency in our preparation, and it'll make it easier to respond immediately. We don't have to go searching for each individual pack depending on the situation. So let's look first at catastrophic natural disasters. This is the one that I think is the most likely to occur. These emergencies can be in the form of hurricanes, fires, floods, mudslides, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, though the last one may be a bit far-fetched. In each of these cases, the damage to infrastructure could be widespread and significant, and you would likely need to evacuate immediately from the area. Perhaps you'd only have minutes to get out of harm's way. I think of things like the fires that annually ravage parts of California, or the fire that ravaged Hawaii this past summer. Earthquakes that can interrupt the power grid and the supply chains. Hurricanes like Katrina, or the hurricanes that devastate Puerto Rico seemingly on an annual basis, that can destroy entire infrastructure. These are devastating kinds of events, and we need to be ready for them. Events such as hurricanes and earthquakes and those kind of things can require evacuation, but can also be accompanied by government support at a location away from the point of catastrophe. Now, as we have seen with Katrina, for instance, the government support can be delayed, and the response can be absolutely bungled, leaving people at risk. Likely, you will be able to take advantage of that assistance within at least 3 days. So you need to be able to survive for at least 72 hours away from your home until you can take advantage of that outside assistance. Now, if your family is not together, you're going to need a plan to gather together quickly, or you'll need a plan to meet at a prearranged safe meeting place. Now, this could be a designated shelter, a spot of high ground. Maybe you've already got a bug out location you would go to. It could be another geographic location somewhere that everybody's identified that they know how to get to. Whatever the case, you may also not be able to use communication. You need to make a plan that doesn't require communication because the cell phone system could be down. So let's assume you're all together. You're going to need to gather the things you need to take with you. Now, each member of your family should have a pre-staged go bag or bug out bag. This bag should contain the personal items that each person needs, plus have enough room for their share of the family items. For instance, each person will need an appropriate and limited amount of clothing. They'll need a personal hygiene kit with things like soap and toothbrush and toothpaste and hairbrush. You may need to have a personal medicine kit for each person in the group. If they have their own medications and they get separated, they'll need to have something until you can get back together. Some personal non-lethal self-defense might also be appropriate, maybe a stun gun or pepper spray. They'll definitely need some personal ID, some cash, perhaps a pocket knife or a multi-tool, a poncho in case it rains, a sleep bivvy or sleeping bag, maybe a small fire kit, or maybe all they need is just a lighter with some duct tape wrapped around it, some water, and perhaps their own personal MRE. I prefer this be something that's a do-it-yourself that you've made at home. It should include at least 2,000 calories, be nutritionally balanced, and it should include food that they're actually going to eat. I've got a video on how to put one of those together. Now, adults might also choose to carry additional self-defense items. Now, for your family, you're going to need what I call an FFAC, a family first aid kit. This should be sufficient to meet the needs of the entire family. You'll need some family medications, maybe antibiotics, maybe insulin, whatever kind of medications your various family members need should have a larger supply. You may need a waterproof packet that includes important documents, things like copies of IDs, passports, the deed to your home, vehicle registrations, insurance policies for medical, homeowner insurance, auto insurance. You'll need bank account information in case you need to access your bank account at some point. A second copy of this packet would be useful to put in another one of your party's packs in case you should lose one pack. You might want a cooking kit, maybe something like the Stanley set here I've got. You might want a small cook stove in case you have to heat something up. A set of binoculars might be handy. Okay. Maybe some handheld radios like these Midland radios I've got here would be helpful to you. I think also something like a small AM/FM radio that can pick up AM/FM weather and shortwave broadcasts. This is powered multiple ways by solar, battery, hand crank. This is a Kaito, but you can also get them from Midland, which is really nice, and they're very inexpensive, about $25. You might want to have some extra cash with you. Okay, and this can be useful if you're able to acquire additional supplies while you're on the road. Now, if you're not in a vehicle, you may need some kind of shelter along the way. Now, you may choose to carry valuable jewelry and precious metals with you, but they will add weight to your kit. On the other hand, they could prove to be valuable as barter items, at least initially. Now, be cautious about letting anyone know what you have. While valuables can be helpful, if you find yourself in need of bartering the supplies, people will still try to take stuff from you by force. So initially, gold and silver will still have some value and can be used for trading. Should the disaster spread to a national or international level, the immediate barter value of gold and silver may start to decline. After all, people can't eat or drink gold and silver. Now, once you have all of your materials together, you'll have to determine your mode of travel. Will it be by foot or vehicle? Will you take one vehicle or two? I met a fella in New Orleans last year telling me what his family had gone through during Hurricane Katrina, and how they actually took multiple vehicles, a large family, took a whole vehicle, and they caravanned to Texas. They did get separated at some point, but they did eventually get back together. Now, if you're going to use a vehicle, you may be able to pack additional supplies, though you don't want to look like you're oversupplied. You don't want stuff piled on the roof or packed up against the windows that people can see. This will add or attract attention to you and will make you a target. Now, let's say you're challenged by someone who wants to take your supplies or your vehicle. This is important. Do not fight them unless it's absolutely necessary, and unless you know you can win. I saw this video where this guy said, look, if it's going to be a fair fight, don't get involved in it. There's too much risk. You avoid that at all costs, particularly because it could result in injury to someone in your party. Now, I'm not suggesting that you roll over at the first sign of confrontation, but don't put others in your party at risk unnecessarily. If necessary, you see danger, stop before you get there, everyone grab their pack, get out of the vehicle and go. Let people have your supplies in your vehicle. Avoid the danger whenever possible. Remember, stuff can be replaced. People can't. Once you are at a safe location, whether it's a private bug-out shelter or a community shelter, you need to take stock of the inventory you still have. Now, this is important. Do not advertise what you have. Now, offer help where help is needed. But again, don't become a target. Don't do something as stupid as spilling all your stuff out on a blanket to see how much stuff you've got, because everyone else can see that. So don't become a target. Now, if you can use other people's stuff, don't use yours. Now, what I mean by that, I don't mean take other people's stuff, but what I mean is if the government or the aid group that is offering you things like shelter, food, clothing, water, take it. Now, if you have a firearm, remember you will not be able to take that into a government shelter. If you're going to a government shelter and you're almost there, find a good place to hide your firearm. You can always go back and retrieve it later. A prearranged hidden cache could also be a solution. If you're forced to give up your primary weapon, perhaps you can go to that hidden cache and re-equip yourself. Remember, in a natural disaster, you could be stranded away from your home for a few days, months, or even permanently in the case that your home is destroyed. So be prepared for that. Ask yourself what you would absolutely need if you could not go back to your house. Now look, old sports trophies of Grandma's China don't fit into this category, okay? I hope this gives you something to think about. Just preparing for the video made me think about a lot of things that I had not previously thought to prepare myself for. One thing I want to add to my pack that I would take with me, and that is a personal devotional. The one I have in my hand is called Faith's Checkbook from Charles Spurgeon. It's a collection of daily devotions that include 365 promises from God. Reading this on a daily basis can encourage you, it can uplift you, it can provide you spiritual food that keeps you healthy and keeps you positive when facing really, really hard times. Now look, if you got this far in the video, you must have liked some of it, or at least found it interesting. So please consider subscribing to the channel, and also click the notification button so that you will receive notice of any new videos. In the meantime, be strong, be prepared. Have a blessed day. We'll see you soon on Cowboy Survival.